Good morning, YouTube. So we're back again with another SHSAT-like ISEE. And if you notice, I made a slight difference in the description, which is that we're going to start covering SHSAT 9 questions. Now, the mood of the crowd may flip at this point because while I'm covering SHSAT 8 stuff, a lot of people mentioned in the live streams and an email, what about SHSAT 9? What about SHSAT 9? What about SHSAT 9? So now that I'm going to start doing some SHSAT 9 stuff, the table may flip. So let me just explain real quick on both sides of it. Remember that all SHSAT 8 questions on the ELA and the math are part of SHSAT 9, right? SHSAT 9 is a superset of SHSAT 8. So SHSAT 9 doesn't only have grade 9 stuff. It has everything up until there. Just like SHSAT 8 has everything up until grade 8. Okay? Yeah, there's advanced topics. Yeah, there's whatever. But they more or less still match the grade level. So now on the flip side, you might say, I'm in grade 8. Why should I listen to a grade 9 SHSAT live stream? Because you want to over-prepare is one reason. The other is the SHSAT 9 stuff might be just a little more tougher. Depends on the question. So a grade 8er wants to see a grade 9er one, and a grade 9er has to see the grade 8er one. So the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, both a grade 8er wants to see the grade 9 stuff, and a grade 9er wants to see the grade 8 stuff. All right? And sooner or later, you're going to cover this stuff next year when you're a freshman, or in 2 years at the next levels. So none of this is going to hurt whether you're in grade 8 or grade 9. And really the truth of the matter is, a lot of the questions, and I'm going to kind of put my foot down on this in a way, are distractions. Because again, most of the grade 8 stuff is most of the grade 9 test. Okay? And covering grade 9 stuff hopefully gives you insight if you're only taking the grade 8 one. All right? So I'm going to get off my soapbox at this point and jump into this. Let me see here. It looks like we're live. Yeah, we're on. Okay, Leo. Oh, hi, Leo. How you doing? How's everybody doing out there? If you're catching on some replay, please join in. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you find out about other stuff I'm doing. Especially if you notice this week, guys, I kind of did a few twists on things, and we're kind of moving along into other topics. There's still more things to do in the kind of approach and philosophy I was taking, but time's running out, and we have to start striking a balance. So I'm going to be jazzing stuff up, and I can't more strongly suggest go back and play all of my YouTubes, whether they're boring, not boring, or whatever. There's tons of information in them, tons of strategy, tons of insights, tons of techniques, and just little philosophical tiny fireside chats. In fact, we're going to be doing those even, as you guys saw this week. So like the video, subscribe, and let's jump into this. It seems I have the habit when I'm doing these, I do one last example. So last time we did question number 6, and we talked about how it was tricky and so on. And there was one last thing I forgot to write, which is that if we have x plus 3 over 3 plus x equals 0. If I'm not mistaken, I did the cross product, because it's the same as that, and we found out that we couldn't resolve the thing. But the truth of the matter is, this is x plus 3 over x plus 3, right? We're allowed to flip the order of these two things. So this says 1 is equal to 0. And we know that's false. Can no go. Can no be, at least not in the dimension we live in. Okay? So be clear on that you would know from straight up that it's D. Just bing, bang, boom, D. So sometimes you have to take a problem and take that 1 second, not much longer than 1 second, and just kind of look at it and say, is there something obvious here, right? And this happens in a lot of the cases that we end up doing more complicated math. Even when you get the right answer, you end up doing more complicated math. And what you really want to do often is just kind of back up a second and say, is what's actually going on here? And what's the point of this test question? Often we think they're trying to trick us, they're trying to destroy us. I'm just a little kid, all this kind of nonsense like that. The truth of the matter is sometimes they're giving you something simple that just has one concept behind it. Now, not always. Sometimes there's deeper level where it's multi-level word problems. That is nasty, but they're not trying to hurt you. This is just trying to be demonstrative that you're understanding the math again, okay? All right? So I didn't want that question to go past without that kind of thing being said. And often in the real world, this is how problems are solved. You don't always need a giant radar detector to figure something out when you could just look up in the sky and say, oh, there's a plane, okay? So that's really significant in your problem resolution things. You know, what I have a kind of thing when I lose something. When I lose something, you go through the normal thing, like where's the last place I left it, and all this other kind of stuff like that. Well, I also have a rule when I lose something, which is that where can it not be? Because most people are going to look at the last place they use it, and where's the obvious place it's going to be? It might be where, if I lose my pen, it might be where I put my pens. It might be in my pocket. But then when you run through the normal stuff, if it's not there, it's obviously somewhere else. Okay? There's not a guarantee it's somewhere else. When I did computer programming, this is how I was a better debugger than most people. Because most people will try and look for the obvious answers. But sometimes you have to look for the unobvious. Now, for me, it's more innate than other people, but it's also a skill that you can build up and hone through practice and just observation. Okay? All right, so let me get off that soapbox, and let's jump into these questions. So I think we did 7. I'm not sure we did 8. In fact, I don't think we did 8. So I don't think 8's going to show on your screen, so let me move this out of the way. Let me shrink this down 1 just to see if we can get something reasonable happening here. Let me just shrink it down twice. Wait, I think I just screwed up the app. Every time I try to resize something, the app screws up. All right, 1 second. So while that's crashing, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I'm a tutor in New York City. I tutor a lot of things, including for standardized tests, including the ISEE and including the SHSAT. Okay, so that may have just popped off from your screens. Let me try to bring it back. Please, my email is at the bottom of the screen. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, whether it's for my tutoring services or you have a general question about the registration for a certain test. Let me see here, where is this? Or things like that. All right, it's popping back up, so we should have it in a second. All right, let me see if it lets me shrink it now. 1. Well, that fits on my screen. Let me see if it'll fit on your screen. I don't know if it brought it up for you guys again. Let me make sure that the software has the right file. It may still have the old one which crashed already. All right, no, it just popped up. Okay, so in about 2 seconds, you guys should have it on your screen. Nothing like live streaming and technical difficulties. All right, 3, 2, 1, boink. Nope. Come on, YouTube. Oh wow, man, the lag is really strong. Okay, so my internet went out. Yeah, well, the file crashed, so I just had to bring it back up again. So it says, the bar graph shown below represents the scores of 10 different dogs at obedience school. So we have my normal rule where we're not going to read the words anyway. We're going to look at it. So the illustration is scores from a dog obedience school. So the bottom we have 1 through 10. So that seems to be, we're not naming the dogs, we're just numbering the dogs. And the left-hand side is the score that the dog got. All right? So dog number 10 got a 155, and dog number 2 got a 200. Okay, so let's go back to the words. There's nothing much else going on this one. It seems pretty obvious. The bar graph shown below shows the scores of 10 different dogs at an obedience school. So let me move this off so we can get it on a screen. Let me just double check that it is on your guys' screen. Yeah, it seems to be on your screen now. Actually, with the lag, I can't tell. So it says, what is the median score? Let me just make sure I got on your guys' screen. La da 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 da. I'll do a song and a dance while it's waiting. All right, I think it finally adjusted for you guys. All right, so it says what is the median score? And if you remember, there's a bunch of terms of centrality, like mean, average, mode, range, stuff like that. Okay? So what is the median score? If you remember, it's the middle one. The middle one. So what's going to happen is some of you guys are going to do this. Let me bring this back over, because I think we can get this here, at least in part. Okay, there we go. So we have our graph with these things here, and you were taught to basically x off this, x off this, x off this, x off this, and then the center one is your median. All right? So if we have 10 of them, 0 through 10, that's going to be about 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If we go 1, 10, 2, 9, 3, 8, 4, this, and we're left with these two center ones. If they're equal, that's the answer, and if they're not equal, we actually get their average. So it'll be 5 plus 6 over 2. Actually, that works in either case, because if they're equal, this equals 5 or 6, and if they're not, it's the midpoint between these two numbers. So what a lot of kids are going to do is go to 5 and 6 here and see it's 175, and say 175 is the answer. And that is wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. Okay? That's just getting the midpoint of 1 through 10. But that doesn't talk about the heights of these things, the actual scores that the dogs got. All right? So what we need to do is order these. We need to put them in order. So this is semi-nasty because there's 10 of them. Let me see what's on your guys' screen here again. So we have, I'm just going to kind of leave space here. We have 160. We have 200. Does that fit on your guys' screen? Let me see here. No, it doesn't. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. 160 and 200. The third one is 195. Okay. The fourth one is 180. The fifth one is 175. And I'm just going to put this here because I'm running out of space on the page. That's 175 again. And that can't hurt because when we do this, it'll work out. So we have 175. Did I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 175 twice. The next one is 195, so we have another 195. Then we have a 190. We have 155. And we have 195 again. So let me make sure I got 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I do. So this is the list we want to go back and forth on. So 155, 200. 160, 195. 175, 195. 175, 195. And we're left with these two. So like I said before, we're going to get the average, which is 185. All right, and hopefully that's one of the answers. So that should be C. That was question number what, 8? Yes, 8 is C. All right. So this tested your knowledge of median and so on. This will come up in all tests in some shape or form. It's often considered an easy question, but it's also a question that a lot of kids just get wrong. All right, so let me bring this back to the regular size. Let me shift this over better. Let me get new space on the paper. So we have a word problem here. By the way, this one could probably, the last one could be on the SHSAT 8 or 9, and so could this one. It's really a flip of a coin. It's really on that line in the sand. So we have a word problem. We're going to take it a sentence at a time, within each sentence a phrase at a time. 2 machines are used to make the same electronic parts. So we have machine 1, machine 2, and somehow they put together and they give us parts. This is my own code, sir. I don't know where the sentence is going, right? So machine A makes 2 times the number of defective parts as machine B. All right, so we're just going to map. So we're not going to use my phraseology. So we have machine A. We can either call it, MA or just A. So we're going to set up A and B, right? A makes 2 times the number of defective parts as B. So I screwed this up the last time. So if B made 1, then A makes 2, right? A makes 2 times the number of defective parts. At the total number of defective parts, there was a total of 6 defective parts made yesterday by both machines. So that means A plus B equals 6. We're mapping the English into math sentences. English sentences to math sentences. A is twice B. A plus B made 6 defective parts. How many defective parts did machine B make? All right, so it's telling us that wherever we see an A, there's 2B. So we can do a text substitution here. We can do a cut and paste here. So this means it's 2B plus B equals 6, or 3B equals 6, and B equals 2. And then if B is 2, then A is 4, and we can double check it here, and we can double check it here, that 4 plus 2 is 6. So that's our 2 answers, and the question is, how many defective parts did B make? Well, we ended up with B was 2. So 9 should be A. Yep, okay. All right, let me make sure we're still live. The lowest was 155. Yeah, correct. Didn't I have that on my list? Where's the list? Where'd the list go? Yeah, I had that over here. I must have missed your comment, or it got delayed or something. All right, so that's that with that one. This one will come up in all of the tests, not just the SHSAT. Many tests, many standard tests. It's kind of a one that might come up in the integrated algebra test in grade 9. Some of you are taking it in grade 8. Or will be taking it in grade 8. Okay, the next question is here. My scribbly thing is in the way, so let me move that out of this space. Get some new blank paper. Okay, so Lisa has taken 3 tests so far in her biology class. We're going to start writing down what we're given. Her scores were 93, 89, and 95. Okay? The score on her final exam, so she's going to take a final. The score on her final exam will be counted twice in her mean. So the mean is the average, the arithmetic mean is the average, which is the sum of the numbers over the number of numbers. Oh wait, this is not appearing on the screen, is it? Okay, sorry guys. This is the average. So it says the score in her final exam will be counted twice in her average. Okay? And so what is the lowest score she can get on her final exam? And have a mean score of no less than 93. So if that's the true, it's 93 plus 89 plus 95, right? Over 3 normally. But we're going to add her final in, right? We don't know what it is yet. So that would imply it's over 4. But the problem is her final counts twice. So we're going to add the final in another time, and that's 5. So we really have this over 5. And in a way, if we want to, we could have just said this was 2 times the final. That actually maps the English more directly. All right? So this is her average. So let's get the sum of those 3 numbers. We have 93, 89, and 95. Make sure that you're copying the numbers right, because I've seen so many kids do something like this, and one of the numbers is wrong. And I'm more astute and aware of this than ever to people, because I have mild dyslexia at this point in my life. I didn't when I was younger, and I could see digits wrong. So it's worth it making sure that you did it. 93, 89, 95. So I get 14 plus this is 7, 1, and I get 9 times 3 is 27. So I get 277 over 5 plus 2f. Now what do I do with it? Well, it tells me they're gonna shoot for an average of 93, right? So that means I need to multiply that by that same 5. So I get 5, 1, 45, 46. All right? So what do I have is 277 over 2f over 5 equals to 465. Now, once we get to this point, we notice we actually didn't need to do that. We just needed to get the average right. So anyway, if we do 4, we don't need to do this division here because we already got it. If we divide this into here, we get back to 93. Okay? So all we really need to do is subtract the 2 of these. So if we do 277, we get 5, 1, what do we got here? 8. Can't do that. That's 3, 1. We got 8 again. And we get 188. So that means 2f equals 188. Because basically, if we had 277 plus 2f equals 465. Okay, so we're going to subtract 277 from both sides. And we get 2f equals 188. So therefore, we're going to divide by 2 and get f equals 94, which should be B. 10 should be B. Yes, 10 is B. Okay, I did that right. All right. This kind of question will be on every SHSAT. Every SHSAT will have it. Doesn't matter what year, what grade, whatever. It's going to be on the test. Something involving test grades. Okay? Somewhere, somehow, someplace. It's going to be there. All right? And by the way, if you're noticing, when I started this ISEE SHSAT-like stuff, I kept saying it may or may not have been. Now these are all game. All these questions are totally game for either test that I'm talking about here. These are ISEE examples. They're not SHSAT examples, but they really apply to both tests equally at this point. And the ISEE is set up that as you go along, the test questions get harder. The SHSAT, it's intermixed. But we're at the point in this where we're at the upper level of the ISEE and the next the phase of the test where we're past question number 5 or whatever, and they just start getting harder and harder. There might be 1 or 2 questions you're like, this isn't hard. Well, it probably means you mastered that part of math. Okay. All right. So by the way, I'm going to go for about an hour. Right now, I'm about at the half an hour point. So we're going to do a few more questions and see where we end up. As you guys know, I like to mix it up between the lightning rounds. I do some theme topic stuff. I do some. I need to do some more ELA work, YouTube's live streams, and I just jazz it up. So and we end up covering a whole bunch of stuff either way. All right. So let me make sure. All right. We're question 10. Let's go to question 11. All right. Question 11 is another one that's taking up the full screen. So let me drag this bugger out of the way again. And let me make sure it's on your screen. Yes, it is. Okay, so question number 11. Let me just shift this a couple pixels so we're talking about the same question. Okay, so question number 11, we're going to look at the illustration first. It's about the number of pets owned. The left-hand column is the number of pets. The right-hand column is the number of students owning that number of pets. So in other words, 2 students own 4 of them. 5 students own 2 pets. And 5 students had no pets at all. Okay, so go back to the words. There's really nothing we can do. Sometimes I like to add up the number of students or the number of pets, or depending on what it is. In this case, it's kind of too many. So let's see if the question is really going to demand it. My eye is kind of going down to the question already, so I kind of know that I don't necessarily have to. So Jane recorded the number of pets owned by each student in her class in the table shown below. Actually, I put the word below. In the table shown. So there we have it. What is the mode of the data? So this question is similar to this question here, where kids know what the median is and they don't interpret this table properly, and a lot of kids are going to run into the same problem here. And even though you're prepared it, you need to drill this through yourself. You need to absolutely drill it through yourself about what's going on here. So I think enough of you can see that if you know what mode means, you can see that 6 is the mode, but that does not mean the answer is D. That means the answer is 1, which is A. The number of kids with 1 pet is the highest thing, the highest number. It means 1 appeared 6 times, right? Don't get lost in the table and in the meaning and the definitions. And don't take esoteric sideline definitions of these things. They have pretty clear, pretty small definitions. It's not 6, it's 1. So be careful. This is a point being thrown away, and they're giving this question to do that. And this is the kind of question that's going to separate some kids. I don't know if you guys know how the scoring is done for some of these tests, whether it's the ISEE or the SHSAT. And the truth of the matter is they take all the scores after you got your scores, and they produce a bell curve. And the bell curve in the case of the ISEE is basically against other kids of your age across the country. Okay, in the case of the SHSAT, they don't do it that way. What they do is, but they compare your score against everybody else's score who took it. And what they're trying to shoot for is a midpoint score. And then from that side, once they get the midpoint score, the bell curve, they're going to throw kids on either side of it. And they do that by increasing the points you get for any questions you answer after that midpoint score. It's not the question number, it's the number of questions you get right. All right? And the average kid is going to get the average score, whatever that happens to be. If it means they only got 50 out of 100 questions right, then that's what it means. If it means every kid got 90 out of 100 right, then that's what it means. But anyway, they mathematically set it up so that there's a midpoint score, so to speak, and kids go on one side of it or the other. Okay, if you're basically on the left-hand side, so to speak, you're out. You didn't pass the cutoff score. Okay, and if you're on the right-hand side, you may or may not have passed the cutoff score. What you want to do is end up on the right-hand side. You don't want to be in the midpoint with all the other kids, because at a certain point, every question you get right is worth more. The SHSAT handbook mentions something like every question is worth 1 point, and they're equal. And the truth of the matter is, even though the next paragraph they explain that there's a normalization that occurs and a curve, they don't explain it amply enough. And they already threw out that each question is equal. And the truth of the matter is, each question is not equal. They're not. And this is the kind of question you want on the SHSAT to bump up your score. So you want to make sure that if you mastered all the math, you don't want to lose 10 points. That's 10 raw points, which could map into 150 points. 150 points. What if you get the last 10 questions wrong? I don't mean question 37 through 47. I mean, if you already answered 37 questions correctly, and you're going to go back wherever those questions have to be and answer the last 10, they're the most important 10 questions on the test. Because question number 20 that you got right, or the 20th question you got right, might only be worth 3 or 4 points. Whereas question 40 might be worth 15 points. That's a huge, giant difference. Okay? So this is the kind of question you really want to get right. And like I said before, where you kind of sit back and observe the problem, when we did the X plus 3 over the X plus 3, you want to do that. You want to take that second on every question and just say, whoa, what am I being asked? Am I answering the right question here? Okay? I'm spending a lot of time on a simple question on this, but a lot of kids are going to get this question wrong. Absolutely wrong. So you want to make sure that you're astute, that you're awake, which ties back into the whole spiel about preparing correctly, the week of the test, eating right, being healthy, exercise, no stress, don't set up other things going on, just to make sure that you're getting there and your mind is clear and all this other stuff. All right? And there's some argument that the SHSAT should be given like the week after the last day of school even, because your school's going to start up and you have that competing with figuring out the SHSAT stuff. All right? And there's a lot of issues to contend with, especially if you have a middle school that wasn't so great. All right, so let's move on from this question. Okay, so 12, 13, 14, 15, these are unequivocally grade 9 SHSAT questions. So if you're in grade 8, listen to them anyway. Let's go through this anyway. So let me make sure this is on the screen because I shuffled some stuff about. So let me move the camera back here. Let's see. We need scrap paper. I don't have scrap paper. Let's see. Okay, so if m and n are prime numbers, what is the least common multiple of 8n, 6nm, and 4n squared? Again, if you just have slight dyslexia, make sure that you're copying what you're seeing. And n looks like m, and n squared could be something else. This could have been cubed. So make sure you are looking at the numbers correctly. Again, they've given this to make sure that your mastery of math is okay, and they're actually making it slightly confusing by using the n and m. Okay? So if n and m are prime numbers, and that's important, right? So we went through ad nauseum a whole bunch of things about factoring. We went through GCF, we went through LCF. If you have not seen those YouTubes I did of those live streams about those concepts, please go back and see them. There's at least 4 and I think 5 of them all together. That's a lot of hours work, but I go through dozens and dozens of examples, and you'll come out of it knowing it. I even did a last one which shows how to do it quickly. Okay? So part of that, the discussions of the LCM and the GCF was prime factorization. So knowing these are primes already is good. Okay? So what we're going to do is let's get the prime factorization of these. So 8n, we know this is already a prime, so we're just going to worry about this. So we get that for that, right? That's a no-brainer. 6nm, and again, so just to be clear, our prime factors here are 2, 2, 2, and n. Our prime factors here are n and m plus whatever this becomes, which is 2 and 3. So our prime factors here are 2, 3, n, and m. Okay? And by the way, as usual, if anybody's catching this on the replay, you can stop the video, obviously. Actually, you can do that even on the live stream, but Whenever I've done that with somebody's thing, it sometimes gets messed up. And then 4n squared, and this is really the same as n, right? And this becomes 2, 2. All right, so what we want to do is take so this is 2, 2, 2, n. This is 2, 3, n, m. And this is 2, 2, n, n. All right, so we have these 3 2's here. We have 1n, 1n, we have 2 n's, and we have 1m. So we have, and we have the 3. So we have 2, 2, 2, these are multiplied, 3, m, and then n. Okay, so if we map that, we get m, n squared, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is, we get 24 mn squared. Now what happens sometimes is you can get this far and the forms they give it to you are in different formats. But it turns out that D, I think, is in the same. So if I just switch the order of these two, I get 24n squared m, which is what D is. And 12 better be D. Yeah, 12 is D. Okay? So is anybody following this? Have any questions about what I did? Okay, what I'm going to do is show another form, which is similar to another way I showed you guys. And I'm actually going to take it an additional step. Which I didn't do on the other ones, because in the other ones it didn't matter. So I'm going to divide this by 2 and get 4n, 3nm, and 2n squared. I'm going to divide it by n now and get 4, 3m, and 4n. So it turns out you can continue going on some of these. So I can do 2 here, because we stopped. We got the LCM by stopping at the previous example, but we're trying to get the whole prime factorization tree. And the other examples, we didn't need to continue because we would have gotten the same answer when we went down the list on the other side. So the other way was kind of a shortened version of this table. But if we continue, this goes into here twice. It doesn't go into here anyway, so we leave it alone. And this goes into here 2n. We do another 2. This is 1, 3m, and this is just n. And then we can go 3 into here, 1 and m and n, and then m goes 1, 1, n, and then n here goes 1, 1, 1. So this is our factorization. All right. And I think I made a mistake here, and we got. Sorry, that should have been an n. Okay, I wrote 2. That was my mistake. So I get, if we write it out from the top, can I get all this on the screen at one time? Yes, I can. So we have 2. Sorry, wait, the wind is blowing us. 2, the second one is n. We have another 2. We have 3. Sorry, that was a 2 and a 3. And then we have m and another n. So we have 3, 6, 12, 24, 24 and squared m. So we get the same answer. Okay? So the only thing we're different is that previously on the LCM examples and the GCF examples, we stopped here. So if you want, you can continue, and whatever goes in, and you're just left with ones. And you can basically ignore the ones until you go through the whole side, and all you're left with is ones on every line. Okay? Actually, that was still m. So we have 2 ways to confirm it, that actually is the answer. This is kind of an ugly question, so we just kind of have to deal with what it is or isn't. All right, so 43 minutes. Let's do a few more questions. Okay, 13 is another good one. Let me make sure that's, first of all, that the YouTube is still going. Yes, the YouTube is still going. So we have for 13 an uglyish and again they're using x and y. In fact, I have to write neatly because they kind of can compete with each other, be creating more of a math optical illusion. And we're being told x is not equal to. This means not equal. All right? So what do we do with this? What do we do with this? I think it's asking what is the value of y. So I think the inclination of most kids is to get something that says y equals something. All right? So let's kind of do that. So if we get rid of this term and subtract it from both sides, we get 3x minus 3 minus xy equals minus y. And at this point, we're like, we have minus y. So if we multiply this side by minus 1 and this whole side by minus 1, we can get that. So we get minus 3x plus 3 plus xy equals y, right? And then you're kind of stuck saying, wait, I was solving y, but there's a term with a y over here already. And then you're like, oh, that's no good. And a lot of kids will tinker back and forth with this and spend a lot of time on this. But on the ISEE and the SHSAT, you only have about a minute and a half to solve each question. And at this point, some kids probably already went over a minute. And this is one of these questions, again, where you kind of have to back off it, like the x plus 3 over the 3 plus x question, and just kind of look at it and say, what is going on here? Okay? So let's bring back the original sentence, which was 3x minus 3 equals x times y. 3x minus 3 equals x, y minus y. Okay, let me bring it back up on my screen to make sure I'm actually copying this right. 3x minus 3 equals xy minus y. Because the worst thing about getting a question wrong is having copied it wrong in the first place. All right? And something should leap out at you. And this should be something you throw in your toolkit. Probably really far back in your brain. But just keep it in your brain touch enough that in a lot of these tests, the distributive property comes up, which is the A times B plus C, right, equals AB plus AC. And also A times B minus C equals AB minus AC, right? I'm sure if you don't know what that is, you're in deep trouble. Well, the truth of the matter is it also goes the reverse, okay? And the reverse situation comes up less often, but this is what's happening in this example. It's the reverse situation, that we're going from this side back to these. So what am I talking about? Why am I talking about this? Because this is the same as 3 times x minus 1, right? Because we get 3x minus 3. And this is the same as y times x minus 1, right? Think that through. And I think you can see it leaps out that if we divide both sides by x minus 1, this cancels, that cancels, and we have 3 equals y. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, booyah, right? So this is a great question again for both tests. And not just the ISEE and the SHSAT, but the SSAT and the PSAT and a whole bunch of them. The Hunter College High School test. I'm sure something like this is easily ending up on the, because Bard High School and Baccalaureate and Beacon and I think Eleanor Roosevelt, I can't remember if that has a test or not. There's a whole bunch of tests, high schools that have tests that don't require the specialized high school test, but they still need a screened test for admittance. And something like this could easily be on those kind of tests. All right? So remember to always back off a problem, especially when you end up over here where you're kind of going in circles and things are getting spaghetti-ish. You have spaghetti math. Just that's a time to either back off it, make your best guess, and move on, or back off it and give it that 2 seconds, not more than 2 seconds, and just see, is anything leaping out at me here? And often it's something simple like the distributive property, or the case before where we just flipped 3 plus x to the x plus 3. Oh, 1 can't be equal to 0. This can't happen, right? So there's that kind of a thing. And it's not leaping out at me why they put the x not equal to 1. There's probably a scenario you can get here where you're going to end up doing a division by 0 somehow. So they somehow kick that out. Yeah, right. The reason x can't be equal to 1, because if x is 1, we get 3 minus 3 is 0. And if x is 1 on the other side, we get y minus y to 0. So we get 0 to 0. So you could argue we don't even need to solve a y, right? Because when x is 1, the y just goes away. So that scenario can't happen, all right? Okay, 14. All right, 14 is a good one. This kind of expressions are normally not taught until grade 9. And when I say that, I mean that the normal curriculum for grade 8 and grade 9, some kids are in grade 8 taking this class that talks about it, where you get into, you might be in an honors math class, or you might be taking grade 8 math and integrated algebra at the same time, where you're going to be talking about polynomials with exponents, and including exponents greater than 2. And really what this is about is like terms. And they're probably going to jumble up the x and y's here again. In fact, I'm looking at it because one thing talks about an x squared, and the other talks about a y squared, or a y to the 4th, and something has an x to the 4th, and so on and so on. So they're trying to mix it up, and it is confusing, all right? And again, a lot of people, oh, they're trying to trick me. I don't think they are. They're just asking you to solve the math problem. There's no vitriol involved in this. Don't get bent out of shape. Just focus on the math and try to solve the problem. So we have, let me get some blank space here. So we have two things going on in this problem. First of all, we have a minus b minus c minus d, right? So you have to remember that this negative is here. Remember that that negative is there. There's probably an answer that if you make believe this is a plus, that you're going to get the wrong answer. All right. So depending on who you are, some kids like to get rid of the minus sign right away and make this minus c plus d and get rid of the parens. I'm a person who can deal with the parens and the minus sign being out there, and just as I'm going along, I can mentally keep track of it. Do what works for you. Okay. So we have 2x squared y 4 plus 3x 4 y squared. So what I like to do in problems like this is just start lining them up and down. So then it's minus 4x 4th y squared, which jives with this one. So it's 4x 4th y squared, and that's a minus. Okay? And then the next one is going to be minus a minus, so it's going to be a plus 3x squared y 4th. So that's plus over 3x squared y 4th. Okay? So that's kind of easy peasy. So we get, what did I do? I left that to 3. So this becomes 5x squared y to the 4th. And this becomes a negative, so we get minus x to the 4th y squared. All right, so if I did that, let me see what the answers are. All right, I believe the answer is C. Yes, thank God. All right, so this is one of those kind of questions that are nasty, just nasty, and you have to make sure you're doing it right. Because x looks like y, and we have x being squared and x to the fourth. We also have y being squared and y to the fourth. And then on top of it, with worrying about that, you have to worry about that original minus sign. All right? So not that it's hard, but that it just requires your attention. And that's true of a lot of these. Hello, how you doing there? Good morning. We're on question 14 right now of the ISEE upper sample test. Okay? Let's see, where am I? So again, this is definitely a grade 9 one, a grade 9 one for sure. They probably will not ask this on the grade 8 SHSAT. It's not 99, it's not 100%, it's 99. So there's a 1% chance they might, because at the end of the day, it's just about like terms. We have x squared y to the fourth, x squared y to the fourth, x to the fourth y squared, x fourth y to the squared. So this is, once that's clear to you, it doesn't matter if it was x to the 99, y to the minus 22, as long as we're combining like terms. Okay? And that's all this was about. All right? So let's go to the next one. Okay, 15. This is definitely a grade 9 SHSAT question, and I could pretty much guarantee it will not be on the grade 8 one. So we're at that line in the sand where, unless you're a grade 8er who went above and beyond, which used to be what the SHSAT was about, by the way, but now it's more about trying to conform to the curriculum, which if that's what it is fine. So this comes down to how to solve for x, and what does an equation like this really even mean? So let me copy it. By the way, you have to copy it correctly. Remember, especially if you have glasses, you better bring them on the day of the test, or you're going to be screwed up. Squinting is just going to slow you down. All right, so I have x squared minus 25, x plus 2 times x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so there's a couple approaches to this. The first choice is a kid is going to FOIL this and do x squared. We get minus 6, and we get minus x. Am I right? X squared minus 6. You get minus 3x. Yeah. So somebody's going to do this, and they're going to get x squared minus 25 over x squared minus 6 minus x, and they're just going up the wrong creek here, but they'll probably try to expand this out and get x minus 5 times x plus 5 over the x squared minus 6. And what they're doing is going backwards and forwards. This one they ran FOIL on to get this, and this one's already FOILed, and they're going to unfoil it. So what you get is a whole bunch of things, and then they might say, wait, maybe it's this then. And nothing of common comes here. So you're just doing a lot of wheel spinning on a question like this. All right. Can I do question 12 and 13? We're up to 15, and we just did 12 and 13. So you're going to have to catch it on the replay. They're good questions. They're definitely SHSAT 9 questions. And I showed a couple of ways to do number 12, and I talked about number 13 pretty well. So we're on 15. So you can kind of do a lot of wheel spinning here until you realize, well, if it wasn't a 0 here, we kind of could have done the cross product, right? So in other words, we can do, actually, what's showing on your screen anymore? I'm not sure. Well, let me twist this. You have the example on your screens. We can kind of do, we have the numerator over the denominator equals 0. So we also know the numerator is supposed to be equal to this times that, right? Well, that's 0. So it's as if the numerator is equal to 0. So basically what we have is x squared minus 25 equals 0. And now we can split this up to be the x minus 5 times the x plus 5 equals 0. And now this is just the regular solution set, which means we have x minus 5 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. And I'm not going to talk about how to do polynomials because if you had taken the class for this, then this is just obvious stuff. And we get x equals minus 5. So the answer should be, if I did this right, I believe C. And thank God again it is. All right? So this is just a matter of observation that the 0 in this case is the clincher to the whole thing. And again, if you back off, again, once you start spinning wheels and going through spaghetti math here, and you're not going anywhere, either you don't know how to do this, or there's just, if you sit back a second, there's another observation to be made. And again, so throw this in your toolkit. Again, pretty far back in your toolkit, but have it available on a test like this. And a lot of questions get solved through this kind of observation mechanism and so on. Okay, let's do maybe one more or two more, because I'm going to keep this under an hour. What do we have going on now? Actually, we're over an hour. So let's just do one more. Wait, let me bring up my screen again. Do quadratic equations, functions, parabolas, etc. come under grade 9? Normally a parabola does not. Sometimes quadratic equations do. Sometimes quadratic equations even show up in grade 8, which is why I keep saying you need to know all of grade 8, and because it applies to all of grade 9. And why, when I started this stream, I mentioned that grade 8 kids should also look at the grade 9 questions, just because there's some overlap between the two of them. That said, on grade 8, the quadratic equation questions, they're not obvious. You won't have to do the b squared minus 4ac stuff and all that stuff. So they might give a quadratic equation, but not necessarily ask you to solve it quadratically. Okay? In grade 9, you're more gonna better be asked to solve it quadratically. All right? But normally it's a word question, and even on the grade 9 stuff, sometimes they're not asking you to actually apply the formula. But they're going to give you quadratic equations, just like this question here. But they're normally not going to go into parabolas, and even graphing. There will be more graphing on grade 9, but it's not going to be heavy. It's not going to be so bad. So I have to learn Algebra 1. Yeah, I would suggest you do that. That said, all of Algebra 1 doesn't end up on the SHSAT. But if you learn Algebra 1 well, you're going to be sitting pretty. And that's kind of what I mentioned. If you go back to my, I think you asked the question on another stream, or maybe even more than one other stream, about what's on the SHSAT 9. I sent a link to that YouTube video. If not, subscribe to my channel and look through it, and you'll see one that talks about the SHSAT topic list pertaining to math. And there I lay out almost all that's on the grade 8 and grade 9. It's a very terse list, so I don't go into detail there about which parts and so on. And nobody ever knows anyway. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of it's there. And I mentioned algebra. Algebra is a big part of it. There's also geometry. But again, these things don't mean that you have to take the geometry class and the regions and all this other kind of stuff like that. So we're talking about kind of intro geometry, even trigonometry. Trigonometry is even on the grade 8 SHSAT. But most people, when they think of trig, they think of SOHCAHTOA and all this other stuff. No, they're not going that far, but you do have to understand angles, and you do have to understand the interrelationships between different triangles, like isosceles, equilateral, 90-degree triangle. You have to know the Pythagorean Theorem for both of them, stuff like that. So when you say you have to learn Algebra 1, it's in that context. And that's why it makes the question hard. What's going to be on the SHSAT? Well, they never quite say. So, but, you know, theoretically, should you take integrated algebra? Yeah. Should you take, you know, integrated algebra / trig? Yeah. Should you take geometry? Yeah. Well, you're already talking about finishing high school math at that point. So that's unrealistic. So there's some midpoint. And the problem is it's mysterious. They don't give you the list. So there are things that pop up often, but we don't know exactly what they are. And if you focus on what commonly comes up, like if a quadratic came on every single one, yeah, I listed in this YouTube that I'm talking about to you. Give me 1 second. I could probably post the link right in here. And if you follow all my YouTubes, there is, what am I doing here? There's a theme running through lots of them, which is that this is a mysterious test with lots of pathology to it and lots of hard questions and lots of just zipping back and forth. I mentioned in some of these examples about spaghetti math. The way the SHSAT is done is spaghetti-ish. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's done shoddy. It's not done shoddy. Actually, certain parts are, but okay, 1 second. I'm going to have the answer, the video in 2 seconds for you. And I'm not going to do the last question at this point because I thought the stream would be over already. One second, I'm finally on the page that has it, I think. Okay, if you watch this, no, I'm saying you don't need to learn SOHCAHTOA. This is the video that shows the grade 9 things. You don't have to do SOHCAHTOA. Can it help you on any question? See, and here's where it gets fuzzy, because they don't say what's on the test. They just say that you're supposed to be creative and able to adapt to novel questions. So they just leave it at that. And the truth of the matter is, when you look at all my videos and how to approach things, there's multiple ways to solve multiple problems. Now, on some things, we talked about just how something can cancel out with a numerator and denominator. So you can solve quadratics sometimes just by doing that, just to use quadratics as an example. Okay? So it doesn't mean you know the quadratic formula to do quadratics. So you can also, if there's certain problems, they may give something with parallel lines and give you x, and you have to figure out angle z over here, things like that. You might be able to figure out how to use SOHCAHTOA to do that, where they have a circle around it and things meet and the radius is here and all this other stuff. It may be that you could use SOHCAHTOA to do it, but they don't demand it of you. So in enough cases, it's basically not a requirement, because there's usually an alternative way to do it that doesn't require some of these things. All right? It's the same thing, for instance, like the SHSAT doesn't really require a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Right, if we have that. But if you know what it is, it can help you on some of the problems. They just don't require it. And it may be they actually give you a 30, 60, 90 problem, a question, but if they do that, there's often a second way to solve it. All right? Because if they may give you A and B, and really the key is just using the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay? So there's multiple ways to solve certain problems. Because you know if there's a 30, 60, 90 problem, some of you may know like things like a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and even that's not required. But there's certain truisms of a 30, 60, 90 triangle as well. So if you happen to know them, great, more for the better for you. It's just not that it's just just that they are not requiring it of you. All right, guys. So if there's any final questions, pop them out there. Otherwise, I'm going to end the stream. And everybody enjoy your day. People on the replay, hope you're liking this. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel. We're still like 60-something days away from the SHSAT, also depending on when you're taking it. People who are going to take it in November, you're actually still 70-something days away. So we're about 3 months away. There's still a lot of time to process stuff and catch up on things and hone your skills and double check stuff. You want to make sure you're being good on the rigor and that you're pacing stuff. Some of you may end up going on vacations. I'm not saying you have to do examples on a vacation or whatever, but make sure you're just pacing yourself out every week, that you're dedicating a couple of hours back and forth and so on. One way is to watch all my videos, all of them, even ones that don't apply to the SHSAT, even ones that go back to grade 4 or something. I did a grade 4 video on grade 4 poetry, and I think it applies just as significantly to the SHSAT. In fact, I gave that same examples to SHSAT kids, and a lot of them got the wrong answers. So at the end of the day, it's just pacing yourself, going through lots of examples, and making sure it's right. In fact, another way to ask a question is like, what advanced material should I get for grade 8 or grade 9? And at the end of the day, I keep repeating something, which is that if you're making mistakes on the intro and early and even the mid-level stuff, you're still going to make those same mistakes on the hard things. So it's really important to get your fundamentals down, make sure all your concepts are solid, so that when you get to the harder, more accelerated, more advanced stuff, that you're really on your toes for it. Because when you get the harder question, you still have a problem with the fundamentals, and you have the issues that the harder question normally has. And I gave this example on another YouTube, which is that when I tutor kids for the state test, I don't use the Common Core versions. I use the non-Common Core versions, at least initially in the process. And the idea is that, like, if it's grade 7 math, I want to make sure they're getting the grade 7 math down pat and figure it out, and not getting confused by the Common Core stuff that the Common Core question throws in. And they may have a problem with both sides of it, but I want to remove that they're good in grade 7 math first, and then let's move into it. The same with the ELA. The ELA is very differently done than it was, say, 7 years ago. But at the end of the day, they're still reading a passage and understanding, say, what the main idea is and stuff like that. So, and the problem with the Common Core ELA, in this case the SHSAT, is that they're going to ask you a main idea, but they're going to ask you something really precise. In fact, Leo was asking me about what the word precise meant. So they may ask you something about precision only about the main idea, and not just what the main idea is, but something precisely about it. And so there's a second kind of level of all this. So you want to make sure you understand the main idea and what this additional test is asking you to do. So when you ask what the best way to study is, just keep at it. So I would start with all my videos. This hundreds of hours. It's tedious. It's probably boring. Some of my videos screwed up because I had technical problems. Sometimes my camera was off the screen, so sometimes the audio was too low. But just drudge through them. Go through examples. There's nothing like going online and picking out the New York State grade 8 ELA test, the New York State integrated algebra state test, the Regents in that case, and just going through them. All examples won't apply, but as long as we don't know the exact topic list, here we are. All right. Everybody have a great day. I'm going to peace out. And please like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.